Alright guys, welcome back. So today we're going to be covering some of the most useful tips and tricks for Defiance that every player should know. Whether you're brand new to the game or a returning player like me, these fundamentals are sure to help you in your journey. Now as usual, chapters will be included down in the progress bar, so feel free to skip around the video as needed, and I'm going to put some links to various resources you may need down in the description, so do check those out. Alright, so our first topic of discussion today is going to be nano effects. What are nano effects and how do they affect your gameplay? So along with the bonus rolls for each rarity tier, which I'll talk about more later in this video, some weapons will roll with a nano effect which changes the type of damage that the weapon deals. Now, nano effects have certain strengths and vulnerabilities depending on what target type you're attacking. And currently there are 5 different nano effects to choose from, namely electric, incendiary, biological, radiation, and siphon. Now, before we talk about nano-specific type damage, we need to establish our baseline. So let's consider a weapon which has no nano effect. Well, a weapon with no nano effect is going to deal 100% of its listed weapon damage to the enemy's HP. However, you're actually only dealing 75% of that weapon damage if the enemy is shielded. So until that shield is broken, you're actually dealing 25% less damage to that target. And it's worth considering that enemies which have armor plates actually take 10% less damage per plate of armor that they have. So now that we've established our baseline for a non-nano weapon, let's talk about nano effect damage. So electrical damage has a chance to apply the status ailment electrocuted to your target. Now the base weapon damage is actually only 90%, right? That's 10% less than a nanoless weapon. And this is actually true of every nanotype. If your weapon has a nanotype, your baseline damage is actually 10% less than a weapon that has no nano at all. But that's the price you pay to get those bonus effects that each nano brings to the table. So for electric type damage, that bonus is shields, right? Your damage against shields is greatly increased. So you're dealing 150% damage against shielded enemies, or even 160 if that target is electrocuted. However, you're actually only dealing 75% damage to the enemy health, right? So it's kind of the opposite of a baseline weapon with no nano, right? Because a weapon with no nano, as you recall, deals 75% to shields and then 100% to HP, whereas this is the opposite. You're only dealing 75% to HP, but you get a huge bonus against shields. So consider enemies like Dark Matter or Grid, 99ers, any enemy that has a large amount of shield and a small amount of hit points, that's where electrical really shines. Next up, let's talk about incendiary damage, or as we call it, fire, right? The fire nano. So fire damage can apply burning, which simple DOT does some damage over time. And again, like every nano, your base weapon damage is only 90%. However, with fire damage, you're actually dealing 150 or 160 if the target is burning, bonus damage to their health, right? So you get a huge bonus to HP damage. However, huge downside, massive downside. You only do 50% damage against shields. And most enemies in the game have shields, man. It's kind of rough. Like, okay, hellbugs, really good against hellbugs, really good against mutants, because, you know, those enemies don't have shields. But especially later on, as you progress down into San Francisco and Silicon Valley, yeah, it's like every enemy you find is going to have shields. So Fire Nano, it does have its uses. It can be really good, but it's not something I would want to be reliant on all the time, just because most enemies in the game do have shields. Moving on to biological type damage, or just bio for short. So bio damage can apply the status ailment Corroding, which slows enemies and reduces the damage that they deal. Corroding enemies are also more susceptible to armor plate damage, and this effect is displayed as large dark balls around the target's feet, which have been dubbed poop shoes by the players. So looking at our base damage, shield damage is 75%, which, as you remember, that is our baseline, same as a nano-less weapon, right? 75% to shields. And then health damage is 100%, which is also in line with our base damage. So pretty similar to a weapon with no nano. However, bio does a huge amount of increased damage to armor plates. So it's especially useful against enemies like, for example, the Dark Matter Bulwarks, which have like, I think they have like, what, 8 armor plates? Just shreds all of them, just gone, right? So really good all around. Also really good for racking up points. So if you're doing sieges, right? So like incursions, arc falls, even just like story missions, anything you're doing in group play, you're going to rack up a lot of points. And of course, points translates to more key codes, more arc forge, more EXP. All around biological, especially early on a new character, I highly recommend trying to get a good bio weapon because, yeah, it's just all around really good. All right, so next up, we need to talk about radiation. So I'm going to come out and say it. Radiation, it's the best nano. It's just the best nano. Well, let's talk about it. So radiation can apply the effect Irradiated, which straight up just increases the amount of damage that enemies take. It just increases the damage they take. I mean, it's as simple as that. It also gives us armor penetration, right? So if they've got 3 armor plates, we just ignore that. We just deal damage to them as if they had no armor. So incredible in PvP. I mean, everyone in PvP wants radiation. You could argue for the other nanotypes, but the vast majority of people, especially the really sweaty PvP players, are going to tell you radiation is the best. And in PvE, it's just the best all around because it doesn't matter if they have armor. It doesn't matter if they have shields or HP. It's just good all the time. It's just good against everything, right? So sure, incendiary damage does more damage to HP. Sure, bio damage is going to shred their armor away faster, but radiation is just covers all the bases. It gets high marks on every different factor, right? No matter how you measure it, it's just always good. It's never bad. So for that reason, basically everyone is going to tell you that radiation is the best nano. I guess that's about it for radiation. Last but not least, we've got SYPHON. So the TLDR on SYPHON is you deal damage and it heals you, right? So if you're not on full life, it'll heal your life. If you're not on full shields, it'll heal your shields. Simple as that. Now, it also does have a chance to proc a heal over time / damage over time effect, right? So there's a chance, it has a 15-second cooldown. And what it'll do is it'll tick every quarter second for 5 seconds, healing you and damaging the enemy. And the damage is actually a 15% health / shield / plate damage for all types. So that's the nano effect trigger, right? So like how biological has a chance to trigger corroded, or radiation has a chance to trigger irradiated, SYPHON's chance to trigger is a heal over time / damage over time effect. And it's always, doing that flat heal. So as you damage the enemies, it's healing you. And then on top of that, you've got that chance to nano proc, right? So it's pretty good. It's all around pretty good. It doesn't have really any downside to it. Its base damage is all in line with our baseline of a no nano weapon. And yeah, I would say SYPHON is an all-around good nano. In conclusion, electrical damage, good against shields, not good against health. Incendiary damage, really good against health, not really good against shields. And then you've got biological, radiation, and SYPHON, all three of which, they're basically good against everything. I would say tier list. Ooh, am I going to do a tier list? Okay, I would say tier list, radiation number 1, biological number 2. Early on, like sub 4000 ego, biological is actually number 1. But once we get to like super end game, it's going to be radiation. And then biological and SYPHON are both right under that. And then you've got electrical and incendiary coming in last place. So that covers it for the nanos. Let's move on to whatever the next topic on my list is. It is worth noting that depending on the synergy of your weapon, once you have, each mod with its corresponding synergy and you unlock the bonuses for that synergy on your weapon, that will change the way that each nano behaves. So, for example, take a look at this old mass blaster I had. Cleansing Napalm, right? So once we've got 4 Cleansing Napalm modifiers attached to this weapon and have fully unlocked its synergy bonus, take a look here. Number 4 applies a Napalm effect, which burns and slows the target for 3 seconds. So that burning effect, for example, if we had an electric weapon, which you recall is only 75% damage to enemy HP, well, if the target is burning, then we actually do 100% HP damage. So just keep in mind that all of these behaviors are subject to change with different corresponding weapon synergies. Alright, so the next thing I want to talk about is how to add mods to your weapon. So currently I'm right here at Iron Demon Ranch, just east of Bloodbath Turnout, and this is where we can find the automatic mod vendor. I'm going to go ahead and just put a list of all the mod vendor locations down in the description, so be sure to check that out. So right now I've got this FRC saw, and this is a light machine gun, so it's an automatic, and it's got the synergy Cannoneer. Now, Cannoneer is one of the vendor synergies. So if we take a look here at the automatic mod vendor, we're going to have our specials, which cycle each hour. So I'll go ahead and take a quick look at those. Nope, nothing I'm looking for. So let's go ahead and get a crit barrel. And I'm going to be looking for the Cannoneer synergy. So here we have Cannoneer. So let's go ahead and let's buy this. So that's going to be our barrel. Here I've got a high capacity magazine with Cannoneer, so that'll be our mag. Here I've got a tactical scope for our scope. And lastly, we're going to want our external recoil reduction for the buttstock. And again, Cannoneer synergy, so let's go ahead and buy that as well. Alright, so to get these mods attached to our weapon, if we open our inventory, here at the top, we're going to select Salvage Matrix. And here I'm going to select the FRC saw. I'm going to double click that. And we need to add more mod slots because currently it only has the magazine slot unlocked. So I'm going to double click on add mod slots, and this is going to cost 10,000 salvage, and it's going to add a random mod slot that is not yet currently unlocked. So we'll go ahead and hit start action, and we'll just repeat that 3 more times. Okay, so now my FRC saw has all 4 mod slots unlocked. So again, we're going to go to the salvage matrix, And we're going to double click on our FRC saw. And now we can go to attach mods. So I'm going to double click attach mods. Let's take a look at the stock. We've got our external recoil reduction for the barrel. We've got the ionic barrel for crit, magazine. We've got the high cap mag, and the sight. We've got that tactical scope. And all 4 of the mods that we bought are the Cannoneer Synergy. So once we've got all these equipped, we'll fully unlock the synergy bonus for this weapon. So let's go ahead and hit start action. There we go. And now, as we can see, that FRC saw has Cannoneer completely unlocked, and it's got all the bonuses from our mods. Pretty cool. Now, it is worth noting that not all of the synergy type mods you find are going to be available at the vendors. In fact, it's only a small handful which are vendor type synergies. So here's a list of pretty much all of the best mods that you're going to be looking for and wanting to keep, either for yourself or to trade to other players or perhaps your clanmates. And I'll go ahead and I'll put a written list in the description as well. So speaking of the salvage matrix, there's actually quite a lot that we can do here. So as another example, here I've got my Rebel Regenerator Shield, which has 3 armor plates and a capacity of about 1500, and its current power rating is only 296, which, as you can see, my ego rating is over 1000. So I've out-leveled this shield a lot. So let's bring this into the salvage matrix, and here's something I can do is actually upgrade its power rating. And so this is going to cost 15 Arc Forge to raise its rating by 100. Arc Forge being a resource that you're going to find from accumulating score in Arc Falls or Sieges, even side quests if you get enough score. So it is pretty costly to do. We can also do a batch upgrade rating, which will bring its rating to within 100 of our current power rating. So that way it doesn't overcap it to where we cannot equip it. So as you can see, that's going to be over 100 Arc Forge to do that. And so it does cost quite a lot. That would increase the shield capacity by about 800, which to me, I don't think it's worth 105 Arc Forge. I'd rather just keep using this lower level because it is a good shield, you know, despite being lower level, it is really, really good. So I don't want to spend that much Arc Forge for 800 more shield. I'm not really having any trouble surviving or anything. So for me, I don't think it's worth the cost. Later on, when we get much later into the game, this will be more useful, but for right now, I'm pretty much just surviving on whatever I pick up off the ground, and I'm saving my Arc Forge for later, because another thing that we can do with Arc Forge, so for example, my Commando SMG here, if we open up the salvage matrix, and this is like some super end game stuff, all right? We can actually change rarity tier bonuses. So here I can select which bonuses I want to re-roll, and of course, the higher the rarity of the roll, the more Arc Forge it's going to cost to re-roll that modifier. So this is currently a rare SMG, so it only goes up to blue, which is rare. We can also upgrade its rarity. Now, upgrading rarity, this is really only something you should do on OJs, aka legendaries, which are orange, and it'll give you a chance to upgrade them to Supreme, which is the tier above legendary. Again, this is all stuff that you're going to do later on in the game when you're trying to craft, you know, perfect weapons, so to say. Next up, let's talk about the ego grid and which perks you should take early on. So just go ahead, pick whichever your favorite power is. For me, I started with Blur, and my second loadout I set up with Overcharge. Early on, I suggest making your way toward the middle here. There's a lot of good perks to choose from. For example, we've got Fortitude to increase HP. We've got cellular armor, which means you take less damage. Also here we've got thick-skinned, so when your shield breaks, you get 4 plates of armor. Also, we've got detachment, so when you kill an enemy, you get some armor plating. Here we've got scavenger, so you loot more ammo. This is really useful if you use high rate of fire weapons like SMGs. Also consider we've got pinata for more drop chance on explosive kills, and also just reward for more drop chance on critical kills. Regeneration, really good for HP regen. Other than that, you can take stuff like, for example, Endurance Runner, which increases the duration of your blur, or you could take Killing Machine to increase your overcharge duration. And of course, there's applicable points for Decoy and Cloak in their relative areas. But early on, I would say the first 5 points you should go for is going to be Thick-Skinned, Fortitude, Cellular Armor, Regeneration, and probably Scavenger, just because running out of ammo is never good, especially if you don't have any ammo spikes handy. But it really doesn't take that long. As you can see here, I've got all of my perk slots unlocked. You get your last one at ego rating 1000, so it really doesn't take that long, and you'll be fully spec'd out. I will also go ahead and put a link down in the description to the Defiance Data Ego Grid Calculator, which is a really useful tool. It's an interactable ego grid that allows you to read through which each different perk does and make your own custom loadout from outside the game. Alright guys, so just to wrap it up, I'm going to show you where you can get the Orange Dodge Challenger. So what we want to do is, here just to the northwest of Muir Processing Plant, there's this area here called Crystal Pond, and there's actually a secret vendor, a supply merchant, that'll spawn here up at the north of Crystal Pond. So let's go ahead and drive our way over there. Alright, now as we pull up to this area, oftentimes there's going to be some enemies around the area, and we're going to clear out all those enemies, and then at that point, the vendor here will spawn in. So someone was here just before me and already cleared those out. Anyway, once we get here, as you can see, for 30,000 script, we've got that Dodge Challenger. And yeah, then you've got yourself a vehicle that is much better than the starting runner you get over at the Earth Republic camp. And again, that's right here, just on the north side of Crystal Pond. Alright guys, so that's going to do it for today's video. Thank you very much for the view. I hope that you found these tips and tricks helpful. Be sure to share this video with any of your friends who might be new to Defiance, as I'm sure it'll help them out too. And of course, leave a like and a subscribe. Stay tuned for more. I'll be posting again here soon. And until then, happy hunting, Arc Hunters.